Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to What's the Damage. And as you may have noticed, I'm still refusing to shave my facial hair. I'm letting my beard and mustache grow out, you know. Makes me look sexy, but for the price of itchiness, I gotta freaking scratch my face all the time. Now it really itches. You know, I'll probably just shave later today, you know. I just gotta stop putting it off, you know. But it looks good in the thumbnails. I look all sexy and stuff, you know. It's all good. But anyway, guys, so here's the thing. I'm going to be doing something new today, you know. I'm going to be experimenting with the new a sub-series within the mixer, you know, where I'm going to be profiling famous killings and serial killers, you know, criminals in history. And the first one here, it's not exactly famous, you know. It wasn't exactly a serial killer who viralized and killed a lot of people, but it was still a very sickening crime to me, you know. And in case you don't know about this, you know, you might want to watch until the end because then again, it is a little unsettling and disturbing. I'm not sure if I will be permitted to use images or videos here, but if I find any, I'll try, you know, because I don't know if there's a chance that I can be sued by the family of this person, you know, but I'll see what I can do, okay? But anyway, I'm going to be talking about Andrea Yates, or Andrea Yates. I don't know if it's Andrea. I look at this name and I always see Andrea, but I know that people say Andrea, so okay, let me just call her Andrea, okay? Andrea Yates, okay? Now, in case you guys don't know, she is a former resident of Houston, Texas, who on June 20th, 2001, drowned her 5 children in a bathtub, you know, and apparently she was dealing with a lot of crap at the time, you know. She had 5 kids, and her husband was a little absent, so she was dealing with postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and also schizophrenia, you know, such that she was found not guilty by reason of insanity, you know, in the court, but she was still given, I believe, 40 years to life, you know. No, she was given a life sentence with, I think, 40 a possibility of probation after 40 years, something of the sort, you know. But this is a really heinous crime for a few different reasons, you know. It was said that obviously she was disturbed, you know. There was something really wrong in her head, you know. But to take her own children and drown them in a bathtub one by one and then lay their bodies on a bed is really disturbing, man, on so many levels. And I'm going to be giving you guys a few more details here, you know. The names of her children were in the order from oldest to youngest. There was Noah Jacob, John Samuel, Paul Abraham, Luke David, and Mary Deborah, who was 6 months old, by the way. My God. The children were, in order of the names that I said, 7, 5, 3, 2, and 6 months old. You know, years and then 6 months old. And yeah. So she was actually found not guilty in 2006, you know. There were no weapons at all used, and it's weird, dude. It's weird. Infanticide is always really freaking crazy, you know, and there are a few other details within this story here, you know, that are a little hard to swallow, but I'm going to be trying to give you guys as much as I can. And even though she was convicted of capital murder, the jury refused the death penalty option, which honestly, I mean, would be fitting for a mother who kills her own children in a way that makes no sense at all, unprovoked, you know. She was probably just having one of those episodes, and it was really sad. It was really sad. Her life, she's still alive today, and her life up until that point was really, really depressing. I'm gonna share it with you guys now.
It was a crime that horrified the nation in June of 2001, 15 years ago. Andrea Yates drowning her 5 children in the bathtub of her Houston area home. She then called 911 to report what she'd done.
You need an ambulance? No, I need a police officer. Yeah, send an ambulance.
Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and baby Mary, 7 years to just 6 months old.
Now, the problems began for Andrea back when she was 17, you know, in her teenage years. She suffered a lot from bulimia and talked to a friend about suicide a few times, you know. She wasn't really okay in the head. Although in 1982, she did graduate from high school. Among other things, she was the class valedictorian, captain of the swim team, and an officer in the National Honor Society, you know. She did go to college and graduated from the University of Texas Health Science Center, you know, and she worked as a nurse up until 94, and then she met her future husband, you know, Rusty Yates, who was an engineer. They moved in together and married in 93, you know. And then they said that they would try to have as many babies as nature allowed them to have, you know. They bought a house in Texas, and the children kept being born, you know. But by the time that her fourth child, Luke, was born, she had already entered depression, you know, and she was found like chewing her fingers and shaking, you know. She tried to overdose on pills the next day at one point, and you know, she was taken to the hospital, prescribed antidepressants and all that, you know. She begged Rusty to let her die. She held a knife to her neck, you know. She tried to kill herself multiple times. She was hospitalized again with different medication, and after some time it seemed like her condition had improved, you know, that she had stabilized. But in 99 she suffered a nervous breakdown, which was nearly the final straw. She tried to commit suicide twice, and she was hospitalized twice, also in that same summer. And that's when she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, you know, which is similar to postpartum depression. It's kind of when you start hallucinating and kind of feel weakened it's a weakened state after you have your child, you know. But usually it happens when you have multiple kids, if I'm not mistaken, you know. And she did have she had 4 up until that point. And it's actually really sad because even though their doctor advised them not to have another child, you know, so to not risk her condition worsening, they did. You know, that's when I believe Mary was born, you know, her youngest child, who she killed when she was 6 months old. So yeah, 7 weeks after her discharge from the hospital, you know, they conceived another child. And she stopped taking medication, mutilated herself, read the Bible too much, you know. She stopped feeding Mary, her youngest, and then she became so incapacitated that she had to be hospitalized again. And then another doctor, you know, Mohammed Sadi, she was treated and released by him, you know. So things seem to be working out okay. But on May 3rd, 2001, she entered what it was considered a near catatonic state, you know. And then she filled the bathtub that day, you know. Apparently, this was her first attempt at drowning her children, but it was then revealed that she had intended to commit suicide in the bathtub herself. So she pretty much forgot about her kids and she was going to drown herself in that bathtub, you know. Unfortunately, that's not what happened, you know. That's what she had intended to do. And let me take a little break here. Because now we're going to get to the hard part.
And they brought her out and she looked like a zombie. There was a sort of wildness in her eyes.
Even with a long and documented history of mental illness, including suicide attempts, she was charged and convicted of capital murder. But the verdict was later overturned, and in a subsequent trial, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. She testified she believed her children's deaths would save their souls.
So, by this point, they were all living in a suburb in Clear Lake City, you know, and this day in particular, there were a few mistakes that were made, you know, to my understanding, because Dr. Saeed, he advised Rusty, the husband, to not leave Andrea by herself. You know, it was a really good idea to supervise her around the clock, because at that point she was really far gone. You know, it was really hard to predict what she was gonna do next, you know. And despite that, the dumbass still went to work anyway and left her alone at home with all of their children. And his mother, Dora Yates, was supposed to check in an hour later after that, you know, to take over for Andrea to watch the kids, you know. And in the space of that hour, she drowned the kids. So, I mean, if the doctor who is, you know, observing your wife and taking care of her and saying that she's not in the right state of mind, if he tells you to not leave her alone and you do so anyway, whose fault is that, you know? If the husband hadn't left for work, I'm pretty sure this wouldn't have ever happened, you know? Maybe it would have another day, or maybe it wouldn't have at all. Maybe she would have gotten the help that she actually needed, you know? But unfortunately, that's what happened. The saddest thing is that she drowned the kids. Then some of their bodies she put on her bed, and others she just left floating in the bathtub, you know. I think one of the kids even came in and asked what was going on, and then he saw what was happening. He tried to run, but his own mother grabbed him and drowned him, you know. It's really similar to the Curse of La Llorona, you know, that also was made into a horror movie as well. It's really sad, man. It's really sad. And in the trial, you know, she did confess to doing it, you know. And despite all the investigations, you know, apparently she had locked their dog in a case so it wouldn't interfere with the drownings, and she did plead guilty, but also by reason of insanity. So, like, I mean, she was given a life sentence, I do believe, but it was also it says so right here. The trial court sentenced her to life imprisonment, you know, with eligibility for parole in 40 years, like I said before. I'm not going to read too much about all of this here, you know, it's too political and a lot of trial stuff and jury. But in 2004, 3 years afterwards, Rusty filed for divorce, you know, unsurprisingly. How it took so long, I don't know. Stated that he and Andrea hadn't lived together as a married couple since the day that she killed her kids, you know. It was granted in 2005, and then he began dating another woman who became, he also married. But they had one son, but that's getting away from the point. Andrea was a victim of herself. You know, this is a very sad case of somebody being so overcome and swallowed by the darkness within them that, like, no, they didn't receive the proper help. You know, something somewhere along the road here went wrong. She was diagnosed correctly, but maybe wasn't given the right medication, you know, or wasn't administered the proper doses of it. Something happened, you know. Maybe if she had a therapist, you know, somebody to actually talk to and vent out her feelings, you know, to help with all of the depression and the psychosis, maybe it would have made a difference. But in the end, 5 innocent children had to suffer for it, you know. And even though it's not one of like the most famous crimes, this isn't like a case of Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer or Jack the Ripper, you know. It is still really sad because children were involved, man. Kids were involved, and their own mother killed them. I mean, I understand that sometimes mothers can be a pain in the ass, but to go and murder your children, all of them, 5 of them, drowning them physically in a bathtub, you know, like looking them in the eye as the light leaves their eyes, as they die, you know, it's just makes me sick just trying to imagine this happening, dude. And really hope this woman rots in hell.
Rusty Yates divorced Andrea 3 years after the incident. He later remarried and had another child, a son who's now 8. According to recent court documents, his second wife filed for divorce last year.
Unsurprisingly, religion was also a factor in this, you know. She did confess while she was in prison that she was considering killing the children for 2 years, claiming that she wasn't a good mother and they were developing improperly because of her own influence, you know. And she did have a psychiatrist in prison who she said, and I quote, "It was the 7th deadly sin. My children weren't righteous. They stumbled because I was evil. The way I was raising them, they could never be saved. They were doomed to perish in the fires of hell," unquote. A mother said that about her kids, man. That's just sad, you know. I mean, were they just misbehaving a lot or something? You know, I mean, when you have 5 kids and your husband is away at work and you're trying to take care of them, I can understand that some of them will, you know, misbehave and act out, but how it justifies, I hate people who do this. Like, it makes no sense where you take somebody's life, an innocent person, against their will, and you really think that you can chalk this up to religion, you know? Because yeah, there's nothing more religious than killing someone. Yeah, that really shows how Christian you are, you know? It's really quite something. So I never understand this line of thought, but I do understand. I honestly hope she rots in hell, but I do understand that it was just an act of her own mind going crazy, but it's still, you know, unforgivable. Killing anybody, regardless of the age, already just, it's horrible, but a child who just barely had enough time to live and understand how life works, you know, and just, that's the saddest thing of all. But anyway, guys, I think I'm gonna wrap this up here. Gonna put my tablet down. And if you guys didn't know about Andrea Yates, well, it's definitely something that you can research later and see a bit more of. I do believe there is a video on this other channel that I used to follow a long time ago talking about this in much more detail. I think it's a much longer video with much more information, you know. You guys know how my videos work at this point. I try to give you the most basic summary, you know, so the videos don't get too long and I can keep your attention for longer. But you should definitely research it, look it up later, because it's, as morbid as it is to say, it's interesting just how this woman spiraled out of control, you know. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up here now. If you happen to like this video, give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day, all kinds of different content. While you're at it, might as well hit the notification button to know exactly what time I upload, huh? Because usually it's multiple videos a day. And that's it for now, guys, okay? This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen.